Well, first, thanks for being here tonight. I am excited to share all the things about club managers with you guys. I know that both of you are very tenured club managers, but there's some information we're going to go over that may be a little bit of a refresher, but could also open up some opportunity to talk about the things that you do to put these elements into play in your clubs. And so tonight's topic is about surfing 4-H with 4-H club managers. And this is all about what we do as club managers to engage our students. Let me get to the next one because that'll tell us what we're going to talk about tonight. What we do to engage our students, but we're going to start with a foundation of what is youth development and why is it important. I think either we never touched on that or we haven't touched on it in a long time. And so I think getting back to the very basics of what it is to volunteer as a 4-H club manager and why we do that is really important to build a strong foundation for our 4-H house and to have a good solid what we're going to call a boogie board to be able to surf these 4-H waves. Then we're going to dive into how to keep your youth engaged, which is going to roll us into making club meetings more interactive. And then from there, we're going to wind out with how can I make sure that I'm an effective communicator and kind of tie all of these pieces, the youth development, the engagement, the interaction, and the communication all together in a nice, neat little bow that is being a club manager. So let's, and then if you have questions throughout, feel free to either unmute or drop them in the chat box. Either way would be great. And yeah, okay, so let's start with some youth development. So when we talk about youth development in 4-H, every single person that volunteers with 4-H plays a part, from the county extension agents to the club managers, the project leaders, and all adult leaders. It takes everyone working together to demonstrate the 8 essential elements of youth development in our program. In Texas 4-H, we further break these down into 4 main concepts. So the first one looks like belonging, and this is through a positive, caring relationship with an adult in an inclusive environment, a safe emotional and physical environment. And all of those things help us create a sense of a belonging for our youth. The next one is mastery, and there's we present opportunities for mastery. We present engagement and learning. And then number 3 is independence, where they have an opportunity to see themselves as an active participant in the future and an opportunity for self-determination. And our 4th element is generosity, where we provide them an opportunity to be generous with not only their resources, but their time and themselves. And so that's kind of the foundation for youth development. In 4-H, what we look at is this particular model where we talk about experience, sharing, process, generalizing, and applying. We do this a lot through our do, reflect, apply technique, where we encourage kids to do those hands-on activities, then to talk about what activities they did, and that comes in the form of like a project share or a record book even. Hi, Miss Pam. How are you this evening?
Good.
Good. And then we go and we apply that to real life. And so we do what we call experiential learning, where we have them like think back about what they just did. County agents use this a lot, and I think our volunteers use it pretty frequently, but we could probably use it a little bit more, where we encourage the kids to take the information that they learned and then put it towards real life situations. That could be things like hearing from guest speakers or visiting, doing some kind of career exploration, but it could also be an activity that we did in our club meeting, and how do we apply those to real life, and what does that look like down the road. And then we encourage them to think, work harder, and ultimately learn more than is possible through just showing or telling, when we apply all 3 areas of that do, reflect, and apply. With this, as facilitators, as club managers, we have to be able to set aside enough time for reflecting on the experience, asking the right questions, planning the appropriate experiences for those age divisions and stuff, which we're going to talk about more in just a minute. Listen to what they have to say, and then support their unique learning style. Again, we're going to touch on learning styles in just a minute. But all of that creates this, like I said, that firm foundation for that good, positive youth development. And we have to start there and build up with all the different aspects. So youth development, like I said, is a crucial aspect of our 4-H experience. We want to make sure that we empower and provide leadership opportunities for our students. We offer education and career readiness through STEM skills, practical hands-on learning experiences. We prepare them for future careers. We encourage healthy living through a holistic approach to health and well-being, focusing on nutrition, the importance of a balanced diet, all of those good things. And then our community engagement and global citizenship, that's where we encourage them to participate in community service projects and encouraging them to give back to their communities. All of these tiers paired with all that whole learning model is what we use to promote that positive youth development experience. We have to be able to empower our kids to take control of their learning experiences and to take control of their 4-H journeys and be able to get that leadership that they need, that career readiness, be able to focus on their healthy living and their agricultural natural resources and their community service outreach. We have to empower them to take control of that and to be able to steer the boat on where those experiences are going to go. But it
Question.
starts. Yes, sir.
Question,
Yes, sir.
if I may ask. Will we be getting a copy of this at all?
Yes, sir. I'm recording it and I will send you a copy of the PowerPoint. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay. So we're going to kind of merge youth development into youth engagement. Again, it serves as a foundation for fostering that youth engagement where we empower those young individuals with those skills, that knowledge, and the confidence required to actively participate in and contribute to their communities and the wider world. At its core, youth development is about nurturing the holistic growth of young people and cultivating their intellectual, emotional, social, and physical capabilities. Basically, I have a bunch of notes here, which is a bunch of academic stuff. But what I want to really talk about is on the next slide is working with youth. And when we work with youth, like I said, we build that foundation with that positive youth development. We create that safe space for those kids. We empower them to take control of their 4-H projects. But then we offer them these learning opportunities where they can learn in the way that they need to learn. And so this is where it comes in with our engagement of our youth, is to be able to know how to work with different learner types in all of our 4-H projects. And we emphasize on adaptability, inclusivity, and ensuring that every youth can engage, learn, and thrive by meeting their needs visually, auditorially, kinesthetically, and through their different age divisions. So what does that mean? That means that we maybe meet in the middle, where if you have a club that has multiple types of age divisions, which most of our clubs do, right? We're not all unless you're teaching Clover kids, we're not all little kids, but we're not all big kids. We're kind of all mixes of kids. And so if we have to take the same lesson to mix to meet all of those kids where they are, we've got to figure out how to adapt it to all those age divisions, right? Because not every senior kid has been in 4-H for their entire career, and not every new kid has zero information. And so sometimes meeting in the middle is the best place, where we take, let's say, and okay, well, teaching knife skills is something that we have to focus on our safety first, right? And then we have to focus on the technique. And so we want to do that in different stages, and we want to do that by maybe starting with some butter knives. That's some safety things. And while our older kids might think that that is kind of lame or whatever, it gets them in that muscle memory, creates that muscle memory pattern for them, where we're teaching them how to julienne or how to chop or whatever with that butter knife, and they do it repetitively. That again creates that muscle memory. So then we've adapted that lesson to fit all of our kids, but they've all learned this skill, and then elevate them up to, to the more advanced knife skills and things like that. Are there things that you all teach that you have learned to adapt to those different age divisions? Like you have your senior level with your junior levels, and you've just got to figure out how to make it more intermediary.
Yeah, I know for our, I'm sorry, someone else trying to go?
Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. So, like, I know for our club, we try to group them according to, we try to like make sure they're seated and grouped according to the age groups, because
Hmm.
we're trying to teach them networking skills, like hoping
Love
that
that.
they grow up in 4-H together and they continue to network. So when they do go off into the real world, that they have those networks and contacts that they can always call upon or whatever. So when we do our program activities per se, sometimes we may keep them according to age group, and then other times we may, for peer assistant purposes, we may have the older, youth working with the younger youth, just to help them better understand how things are going. So
Yeah,
that
I
that's
love
that's
that.
what I've learned. That's what I've learned kind of works for us. So
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that mentorship in just a minute, and later down the road. I've got some things to talk about with that, but I love that grouping them in there so they network and they have that foundation to grow in the program together. That is awesome. Anything else, Heather, Pam? Do y'all do anything specific to be able to teach your project lessons to your kids?
Mostly our projects right now our program stuff is general, and it's for everybody. We don't
Mhm.
have anything really broken down to group levels because um, I almost have a brand new club and I'm having trouble with attendance. Um, Most of my senior level that have grown up in the club, this is their last year. So they're sort of out the door, and I have a lot of intermediate and juniors. And most of my families actually are first year families right now. So it's been kind of a challenging year in terms of just having people attend. Um, I think we've had some really good programs, and I advertise it and put it out there, but we're really not getting a big response right now.
Sure. Pam, did you have something to share?
I just took over as a club leader, but I've only been doing this, I guess, my third year, and I didn't grow up in 4-H. I mean, I did FFA and whatnot.
Mhm.
I didn't know what to expect from the program per se as we started going as a parent. And what I found out is we loved our leader. We have a good group, but there's a lot more that we could be doing, and um, I'm trying to get it more interactive. Like I see some of our other clubs locally, they really have good parent involvement and are having like Wednesday, they get the group together that does the cooking stuff. And those kids are just doing that. And I had a parent, a newer parent, she'd been at 4-H in a different area. She was kind of fussing at me recently because she missed the goat season again. She's like, we've missed the goat season for 2 years now. And I'm like, well, first of all, you should be getting some emails. I know she gets the emails. I'm like, you're not checking your emails. And I'm like, and I know they're at the meetings and we talk about stuff, but she said when I was at our other group, we had somebody, a parent that was just over, she said, I was just over goats. And I was like, then that's great. I would love for you to step up and take over goats, like be our
Yes.
parent. And then she quit. I got dead silence. I was like, okay. But that's
Yeah.
what I realized is I've got to push the parents to be leaders in the special projects. I can't be the person for every project. There's no way. And we don't have any other leaders in those projects. And so I get attendance. I'm really good at social media marketing and getting it out there. And, you know, especially the first meeting of every school year, the room will be full. And all these new people, and then I can't get them back. And it's like they come to the meeting and they don't understand the meeting. And I try to, the way our meetings had worked was that we would do a presentation that was general. We'd have somebody come and speak, like from our, most recently we had one from, he was the animal control guy for the city. And he came and talked about, you know, pet safety and this, that, and whatever. And then we had a project where we made little cat houses out of coolers and put them around the city or whatever. So it was a fun interactive project. So it was kind of for all ages. Everybody did a little something. And it was great for community service stuff. So we focus on community service hours, and then we have our kids run the meeting. So I tell everybody, you know, this is not about our project. You know, our meetings are about community service, leadership skills for our kids on leadership, you know, and then, you know, just giving back to our community, learning about different things, catching up on what's going on, and talking about what kids have won at different various events. We'll recognize those kids at every meeting. But we try to focus on community service and leadership, I guess, the most. We do a ton of community service. But I found they're doing these better projects, and people will ask me, like, how do I get into the clothing design stuff, you know? And I'm like, I haven't done it. I don't, you know, I can give you the information. And they're like, we're so used to not going to the county. We're used to just going to our club leaders, and we have to go to the county for everything. And our county extension agents, they have all these meetings there. They'll have workshops. They have all this stuff. So I think our former leader depended on that a lot and pushed it off to the county. But I think it makes it hard. The parents feel like they're having to go to 10 different places to get information. So that's why I'm here today.
That's awesome.
All this out.
So I have a little bit more information, but we're going to pivot a little from what I had planned based on what you and Heather have talked about. And I think Tony could probably lend in some good knowledge with this. His wife is also a county agent and can help kind of give some perspective on that as well. But okay, my brain is running so fast. I'm sorry.
I know. I think there's so many. I feel like I don't know enough. You know, our club leader before was great, and she had a great club, but I think that there's just so much more we could be doing as a club, and I just don't even know where to begin.
Okay, so let's start with the basic club meeting, right? That's actually the next thing that we're going to talk about. The basic club meeting, which is where we're going to start with making it interactive. Okay, so you have people showing up, right, to your first club meeting, and then they don't come back, is what Heather said. Pam, are yours are still coming back?
We have our core group that does come back.
Okay.
I just feel like we're not adding kids. The ones that we get so many that come to that first of the year meeting in September, and then we lose them, you know. And I get them to fill out a form when they come to tell me what project they're interested in, et cetera, and go ahead and get their family email address. I go ahead and add them to our group email list. I'll follow up with them afterwards and tell them, like, if you're into photography, this is who you talk to. If you're into fashion design, this is who you talk to, you know. And I try to tell them, come to this meeting and this is what you do. I try to get with them after the meeting. But I still feel like they're not sticking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's start with our club meetings. Okay. So we're going to start there, and we're going to make them super fun. This part starts with our club officers and giving them the leadership and training that they need to be proficient in all of these areas. The hands-on activities are always great, whether that is a game or a lesson that they're having. Games and icebreakers are always great. Putting them in real life scenarios where they have to maybe have like a, what did this one make me think of earlier, where they have to like draw a topic out of a bag and they have to act it out. Like some impromptu speaking a little bit, but they don't know that it's impromptu speaking. It's just fun acting. And then having those guest speakers and doing those field trips and stuff. The one I really wanted to touch on was the interactive technology. And that is if you have the opportunity to have some like polling or Kahoot or some sort of game that they could play digitally, that would be super fun. An idea I had the other day was turn your agenda, instead of handing out agendas to people, hand them a bingo card that has all the parts of the agenda on it. And every time you go through something, they cross it off, and then whoever bingos first gets a prize at the end, whether that's like some candy or, you know, a juice pack or, or whatever. That would be kind of a fun thing if you could do a bingo card. One of the cool things that I've learned is that if you use AI technology at all, ChatGPT will create a bingo card for you, and you could download it and be able to use it like that. I can send you a couple that I kind of played around with it earlier. Another thing that I thought would be fun is if you pass out a QR code at the beginning of the meeting where they did a scavenger hunt, where the scavenger hunt was, you could do it on Google Forms, where they have to find, you know, a new friend. They have to find the president. They have to find the flag, different things in the room. It could be a fun little icebreaker. What I'm getting at most of, though, is that a lot of the times there's two things that make people not want to come back. A, it's because they're not having, or three things. It's three things. A, it's because they didn't have fun. It wasn't enjoyable for them. Two, they were not welcome. It was not a welcoming environment. Or three, they're so overwhelmed with the amount of information, it's easier to just not do it than to figure out which direction to take in it. 4-H is this vast ocean, right? Where we have all these different pieces and all these different parts. And as 4-H volunteers and as 4-H members, even as county extension agents and 4-H professionals, we all get so excited about all the great things that 4-H has to offer that even just our second year kids are so excited about it, they kind of vomit all over people sometimes with their excitement, and that is overwhelming a lot of the times is what I've seen. You know, there is a handful of them that just don't come because mom and dad just have too many other things that they are doing and just can't commit to another thing. There's a lot of psychology stuff there, I'm sure, but what it comes down to is what the experience that they had was, and what they're going to get out of it down the road. I think the number one thing I always tell people to incorporate is to have some sort of project meeting or some sort of educational experience at your meetings, and switch them up. You know, if you have multiple projects that happen at your meeting, instead of pointing them here, there, and everywhere, have those leaders do those do those project groups at your meeting. So we have our meeting, we do our little guest speaker, we have our fun, we spend an extra 30 minutes at the end broken out into our project groups, and they do a lesson then. And then they get a project experience, whatever it is. If it's going to be more than 30 minutes, then we let that project leader get with those kids and expand that project then. Getting people to volunteer to help with different things is sometimes a challenge. And I think it takes a little bit of time to cultivate those relationships and to build that trust with them and to be able to give them opportunities to volunteer. But it starts with just one thing. So we get these new families in, they've come for 2 or 3 meetings. Maybe then we ask them to do something very small, help hand out snacks, help check-in when kids are checking in, you know, things like that. We start small with those. And then the next week we hand them a little, or the next month we hand them a little something bigger, and we just build on it from there. And make that to where it's not so overwhelming to jump in as a volunteer, but by the time they're in, they've done all these things already. And so it's not such a big jump. You know, we're not jumping into the middle of the ocean. Now we're wading into the little kiddie pool and then pushing them out into the deep end. So they're able to swim a little better before they get into that those deep, treacherous waters of like being a club manager. I mean, think about how you all got into those roles, you know, and and sometimes it's overwhelming. But I think if we can take a step back and say, okay, I don't want that experience for someone else. Let me do this experience instead, and we just feed them a little bit at a time. Yeah, I feel you, Pam. I feel you. Yeah. Just feed them a little bit at a time, then you're more likely to retain those volunteers and to retain their kids than you are to is if you just throw them into the ocean. It's the same way with the 4-H information. If you give them a little bit at a time, we're more likely to keep them coming back and wanting more, as opposed to if we hit them with all the information all at once. So I always think that first meeting is a good time to just let them be kids, to just let them get their feet wet in what 4-H is. Let them taste the green for that first meeting. And then the second meeting, we build on a little bit of education and we keep going from there. I do, like I said earlier, I do wholeheartedly believe that if you have some sort of project meeting tied to it, it doesn't have to be a long one, 15, 30 minutes, and let them get into the projects that they're interested in. If you have leaders in your club for those, let it happen then. And then, turn them loose after that and let the project leaders handle it from there. If that's not an option for you, what I would say is if you have kids that are involved in some older kids, even some younger ones that are super involved in some of those projects, invite them to come to the meeting and talk about those projects. Peer-to-peer education is a super, super, super effective tool and super, what we've seen, super positive for those kids to learn from each other. So if we have a kid that is super involved in photography, let them come talk about photography for a meeting. Let them be your guest speaker, or do what when I was an agent in Ellis County, one of the clubs there called it a project presentation, where they came up and they talked about what they did with their project, and they talked about all the learning that went into that project. It's kind of an old school way of thinking, but I think sometimes that old school way of thinking is the best way to go. But it gives that kid that's presenting about that project an opportunity for a little bit of leadership, but B, it also gives them a chance to tell what they're passionate about and to tell others about the thing that they're most passionate about. And it could create some excitement for some of those other kids. So using the resources that you have there in your club, Heather, lock those kids in that are getting ready to graduate, let them share that knowledge now before they leave, so that we can get some excitement build up from those younger ones. So then next year, maybe they can be the ones that are sharing that excitement, with the others.
Okay.
I also owe you an email with a point system, and I haven't forgotten about you. I did forget about you for a hot second, but I will get it to you, I promise.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to work it with my project leaders, get a meeting going here before the end of the year to go over that point system and have them work with me and incorporate the projects and the club in that to see if we can get, some better response or some response to it. Our project areas seem to be stronger than our club right now. People are doing the projects, they're just not doing the club portion of it.
Okay. I mean, that's also frustrating. I get that. But at least they're getting some learning out of it. That's the key. They're not just not showing up. They're just only showing up to the fun stuff. Right? Yeah. That's the project meeting. And so we got to figure out how to make our club meetings a little more fun too. What I was talking about with Heather is I've done this in a couple different counties and have had, okay, Pam does that. Yeah. Do raffle tickets. We did a point system where, the kids were, they were responsible for doing so many different things, and each thing, whether it was club, county, district, state, whatever it was, they got so many points for each opportunity that they participated in. At the end of the year, we did this in a livestock club up in Hutchinson County. At the end of the year, they got their choice of a buckle, a black Columbia jacket, a chair, a bag, things like that, depending on how many points they had. we also had really great sponsors that helped sponsor some of those things. And so if you found a sponsor to do that, that's kind of a win-win for them because they can put their logo on whatever you hand out and they get some free marketing, not free, but they get some marketing out of it as well. But those kids, they really wanted that black jacket. You know, at that time, those were the most popular jackets. You saw them everywhere, those little soft shell Columbia jackets, and they all wanted them. And so they all showed up to every community service. They showed up to every fundraiser. They showed up to every club meeting and every project meeting, every workshop, that livestock workshop that we had. If you participated in a livestock judging, that was an extra point. All these different things because they wanted that jacket, and we had structured it so that if you did show up to all those things, you would then qualify for that jacket. If you didn't, you're going to get something in the lower levels. And so they really had to work for it. We did have some discussion in another meeting about how do you keep track of that? Well, a good way to keep track of it is to just have a QR code out there that links to a Google form where they just scan it when they get there to that event and type in what event it is and what their name is. And it's all right there in a spreadsheet. You don't have to keep track of it because it gives you a date and timestamp of when they signed in. And at the end of the year, you have this whole spreadsheet with all the things and can just, you know, go from there. So, which was kind of an easy way to house it. At that time, when I did this, was 10 years ago, we didn't have that technology. We had a piece of paper and we wrote it out in a chart. And so that was a lot to keep up with. And between the club managers and the county agents, we all kept up with it and had to sign off on a lot of things and everything. But anyways, it worked out really well for those kids. We had another club that did it. They did it by attendance in their club. And if you showed up to so many club meetings and participated on so many committees and stuff, you got stars by your name. And at the end of the year, if you had so many stars, you got to draw a prize out of the prize box. And the club manager went and got like little gifts from the 4-H mall, just little erasers, pencils, all the little things, and just had those there for people to pull. I'm sorry, words are hard tonight. My brain is running too fast with things that words are not coming out the right way. But I think you got to create some buy-in from the families. But it starts with those big things, how they feel when they come in. And that starts with your club officers. Are your club officers standing by themselves, talking to each other and no one else, which we see a lot of the time. Unfortunately, they're still kids and they're still going to do that. But if they want to be a club officer, they're going to have to put the work in that role, right? And part of that is to be welcoming and inviting and inclusive to everyone that walks in the door, and to make sure that everybody feels welcome. It means that they take a step out of their bubble and go invite the new kid to come play the pre-meeting game with them, which is the second part. That's the fun. That's where we go and we have a great time. Not just our kids though. It also our parents. And maybe if you have a parent in your club that is a little more tenured, maybe you put them in charge of the mom group or the parent group. We'll call it the parent group because it's not always moms. It's a lot of dads too. But we put them in charge of the parent group, and they maybe go have a little side meeting where they talk about what 4-H is and what their kids are involved in and how to get involved as a parent. Maybe we have a little side meeting off away from the kids where we do that. And then we've empowered another volunteer to help lead the meeting. And we've now included those new parents as well, not just their kids, but those new ones in all the 4-H activities. Because sometimes, you know, whether we like it or not, sometimes when you're new and you walk into a meeting like that, not everybody sits by you to talk to you. And I saw that even being the county extension agent. I would walk into a meeting, people didn't know who I was. No one would say a word to me. And as a new agent, once they got to know me, obviously that was different, but no one said a word. And so I could see where it would be intimidating to walk in as a brand new family, and just like it is anywhere, boys, girls, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, softball, baseball, soccer, any of those things, PTO, any of that stuff, when you walk in, if no one talks to you, you don't really care to go back because you don't feel welcome. And so I think making the whole family feel included can go a long way in keeping that family involved in your club. Another idea is to challenge your club officers to maybe have a little bit of a contest that whoever has the most friends that come to a club meeting multiple times, meaning that Heather brought Joe over here and he came to 4 meetings. Heather has 4 meetings on extra on her little tally sheet. And Tony had Angela that came over here and she came to 2 meetings. So he's got 2 meetings on his tally sheet. You make it a competition between them on how many friends they can bring, but the friends got to come back more than once. Not a different friend to every meeting. They got to come, they got to keep coming back, but put it on them. I mean, honestly, yes, you are the club manager and it is your club to run, but it's their club. And so putting some of this stuff back on them, even those young ones, they can do it. Is super important as well. And creating that buy-in from them and giving them those leadership opportunities and those times to be that leader and to step in and fulfill that leadership role. Any other thing y'all want to talk about with that? Okay, I'm going to transition into communication. This one is kind of it feeds right in. Great, Pam, that's exciting. I love it. Communication feeds right in, I think, into the engagement of our youth, but also of their families and also of, just kind of keeping our clubs running and everything. Number one, communication has to be between you and the 4-H families, obviously, to make sure that they have the information that they need. But at the other part of that is between you and the county extension agents and the county extension office. Oftentimes I see it, especially in our larger counties, those agents will send stuff to the club managers and then let the club managers disseminate it out, as opposed to some of our smaller counties where they send it directly to all 4-H members. But we ask those club managers to help be the messenger for some of that important information, right? So making sure that we have that good communication between both sides of that equation, the county extension office and the agents and our 4-H families. Making sure that we have consistency and quality, whatever system works best for you. Is what I would suggest that you go with, whether that is a text message reminder system, whether it's social media, whether it's an email, whatever system works for you and your club, that's what I recommend. What I would also recommend is at the first meeting of the year, when you have them fill out their informational page or whatever, ask them how they like to be communicated with. Is that through a text message? Is it through an email? Whatever it is. And then we set it up however the majority lands, right? So if the majority are on a text message, then we can shoot out a little remind or group me or whatever. If it's through an email, that's easy, any of those types of things. If you don't feel comfortable giving out your phone number, I would recommend that you try out one of those messaging apps. There's lots of things that use them. I think there's one called Band. There's the Remind app, the GroupMe, all of those different things can let you message back and forth with all your people without giving away your phone number, which is always important for me to be able to do that. I would also encourage, again, with the adults that you have there, it seems to be a trend in every club across the state where we all need more volunteers. But I think sometimes as county agents and club managers, we tend to get a little overwhelmed with all the things we have to do. And asking someone else to help us seems even more overwhelming. And so I think that's where that good communication comes in, where we can be able to tell some of the parents that are there that you need help with this activity or that activity. We're not asking them to commit long term, but we're asking them to do the 1 or 2 things short term that can then hopefully lead to those long-term things. You guys, but whether you want to believe it or not, are kind of the unicorns in the 4-H world. Now, a lot of our club managers are, where you're our longtime seasoned volunteers, and we don't have a whole lot of those. And so we got to start building those back up. And that starts with that communication and making sure that we're sharing the resources that we have. We're helping problem solve if they've got questions about different things, and then we're helping grow that program as well. But making sure that we communicate on both sides of that equation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So, and then, like I said, bringing them into the fold, bringing all the adults into the fold, and getting them to help out as well. Okay. Again, this is just chatting with your extension office. Your agents all have phenomenal ideas and backgrounds to be able to help you specifically with the things that you need. And then if they don't have the answer, they call me, and that's why I'm here. Being in communication with them is always important. Not just to let them know what you're up to, but what you need from them and how you need them to support you. You know, I think sometimes we only hear from our county agents when they need things from us, but we need to be able to have that two-way conversation where they not just outline their expectations of you, but you also outline your expectations of them and your needs and how you can best grow your club and your projects and things like that. They love to hear from y'all, just like sometimes you love to hear from them. It's always fascinating to me how many club managers do not communicate regularly with their county extension office. When I first got to Ellis County, that seemed to be the trend. I showed up to a club meeting and told them who I was and everything, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I don't think we've ever had a county agent come to a club meeting before." Ever. And this lady had been the club manager for like 15 years. And so I was going, oh my goodness, that is crazy to me. But while we have this conversation with our club managers, we also have it with our county agents and continue to push them to open that door for communication for that two-way street. Nobody's a mind reader. And when we assume that people are, it does nothing but create frustration on everybody's end. And so we just have to keep that pathway clear. Okay, so how does all of this merge together? Again, like I said, it starts with that good solid foundation with youth development, and then we engage our youth through those projects and empowering them through those activities and those leadership opportunities and things like that. We have those interactive meetings. We're communicating, and it all boils up and it builds this little nice 4-H house. And so when we build that house, we can grow together, we can have fun together, and it is a little less frustrating down the road. The one thing I want you to know is that you're not alone. Again, you have great county extension agents who are here to help you. And if they don't know the answer, call me. I'm happy to talk it through with you or to help answer any of the questions that you have. I don't have all the answers either, so I might outsource some of those as well. But it's always fun to grow together and to learn together and to get to have those conversations just to work through the issues or just to kind of brainstorm a little bit. Just honestly, just so that you know that you're not in it by yourself, because there's no reason why anybody should shoulder that entire responsibility alone. We have people to help you carry that load. So with that, I'm going to stop talking for a second. Let's have some conversation about that. Is there something that we could, well, I don't know where that train was going. Is there something I could answer for you? Do you have more questions?
Well, I'll say this as far as, one thing that I've learned is, and I did this, the fact that I grew up very poor, and a lot of times when I go to those youth church meetings and things of that nature, or just other meetings in general, I will be returning home hungry. So we purposely have food or snacks for the kids, and that's like that proverbial carrot to keep them coming back. Okay. Even though they have fun outside of eating per se, but you know, that's one thing that I've learned as well.
Absolutely.
And,
If you feed them, they will come.
With that being said, we as a club, as far as I know, have never really used club funds to pay for any of that stuff.
Oh,
And so we've always had like we don't do snacks at every meeting. Like for Valentine's, we would do Valentine snacks. And we would just ask the parents, everybody bring something. Hold on a second, my dog is going crazy. I'm telling my husband to get the dog. Dog sitting there scratching all over the door. So we would have like Valentine snacks, but every parent would like bring something. We would have a year-end party where everybody would bring a dish or whatever, but no one uses the club funds. And I think we already asked them to donate so much stuff because we do so much community service stuff. Like we're constantly gathering donations for different projects. And so parents bring a ton of stuff every time to a meeting. We're always gathering donations for the animal shelter or for Pack of Hope or whatever. And I hate to additionally ask them like, hey, can you also bring food? And hey, can you do this? We've saved all of our money for scholarships. Like that's our biggest deal is we give out a lot of scholarships to our seniors. So everything we do fundraiser wise is just putting that account for scholarships and then maybe an end of year party. And that's it. And they might use $200, for the end of year party. But I'm sitting here looking as you're talking, I was looking online. I've gone up to our extension office and they've given me a huge bag of like little goodies, but the older kids are kind of like, because it's like pencils and stickers and lollipops and cups and random stuff. And I've sorted it and I've already given out like all my good stuff and I'm down to like the pencils and the stickers,
yeah.
We have a lot of older kids. Our older kids are like, these are boring. And so I'm looking, I did awards this year. I did get those printed. I think you sent it to me the other day, maybe the template for awards. So I printed all the awards for all of our officers to recognize them for being an officer. We've never done that. Like, thank you for your service for this year for our last meeting. Here's your award for that. And I noticed even on the website, they have pins where it says like, I'm the 4-H president or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't even know we had this stuff, but I'm like, is that normal to use our funds from the group to like pay for that stuff? Or do I ask the extension office to get it for us? What's normal there?
Okay. So, what it boils down to is parliamentary procedure with your club officers. When y'all sit down to talk about your year, which if you're not doing already, I would encourage you to do with your club officers at the beginning, before the first meeting, sit down and talk about, things like programs that you want to have, events that you want to do, all those different things. But I would also sit down and come up with a budget if you don't already have one. And that budget can have things on it like miscellaneous awards or, snacks for the meetings or things like that. Whatever you want to have that you want to spend your money on, we need to put on that budget. Ideally, and this is not the way it operates in any 4-H account that I have seen, but what it's supposed to do is those balances are supposed to zero out every year because we're a nonprofit organization. And then you start over the next year. That's not realistic. That's not how it happens. I know that. And we carry a balance over every year. But what it's supposed to do is we're supposed to have a budget that says, okay, we're going to bring in this much money, just like you would do with your personal budget. We're going to spend this much on this, and this, and it zeroes out and it takes everything that we made to do that budget. Whether you spent that much money or not, that is, you know, that is up to the club. It should outline it in your bylaws if the club needs to vote on every transaction, or if you just adopt a budget and just turn receipts in for that. It should outline that in your bylaws. If it doesn't, I'd have a conversation. Pam, you're in McLennan County, right?
Mhm.
I would
Yes.
have a conversation with Maddie about that, just to kind of figure out maybe what some of the other clubs are doing, if they do vote every transaction or if they just adopt a budget generally. I know in Williamson County, where Heather is, a lot of their clubs, they adopt a budget and then they just
Yeah.
turn those receipts in as they need to.
We have a budget, that which we use, the money we earn goes towards our scholarships and things like that. As far as like snacks, we actually put out a sign up sheet for every meeting for families to bring in snacks. And we have those donated, but we do have a budget and we use that to go towards our awards, our end of year party, Christmas party, our scholarship, those kinds of things.
Hey, Tony, do you ask parents to bring in those snacks, or do y'all provide them as a club? How do you handle that?
Yeah, we provide them as a club, and I was just talking to my wife, kind of chuckling a little bit because of the simple fact that unfortunately we can't depend on parents to be consistent with that, because you have people calling in at the last minute saying they can't make it to the meeting, and just or are they running late, things of that nature. So it's just best that we have everything set up and just we ask the parents to volunteer to help serve and all that good stuff, when they get to the meeting. So.
So do
But
y'all cover those?
we provide, yes, but we cover the food, yes.
So do you have a club budget that you put that cost in, or do y'all do you vote on it, like how much y'all are going to spend? How do you handle that?
Yes. Sometime back, all the parents, we have like we've had parents only meeting where we discuss all those things and determine what needs to be spent on this and that, etc. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. What else can we answer? Pam, did that answer your question? I'm sorry, I kind of just moved on, but I'm not sure that we actually answered what you needed answered.
Yes, no, it did. Yeah, I think we'll definitely have a club officer meeting this year. We normally do our elections the last meeting for the next school year.
Mhm.
So we'll try to have one like once school starts, just have an officer meeting before we have our big first meeting. Or during the summer, get the kids to, do it, to discuss, like you said, do a budget for the food, awards, prizes, party. Because I think we need to spend more of that club money on some of this, because
Yeah.
Mama can't spend all her money on everything all the time. So
yeah, you do not need to be spending out of your pocket all the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was like,
Absolutely not.
yeah, and I've asked, the extension office has helped me a lot, but I didn't know if there was a norm. So that kind of answered my question. I just feel like, I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't given a lot to work with.
Sure.
So I didn't feel like I knew there was a lot that we weren't doing, because I've started following the other groups' Facebooks and Instagrams and stuff. And our former leader wasn't much on social media. So now I'm following all these groups and I'm seeing what they're doing at their meetings. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, we got to get it together.
So let me show you this. Have you been on the 4-H website to see the management page?
No.
Okay, so if you go to texas4-h.tamu.edu, that's the Texas 4-H website.
Mhm.
At the top, if you just click on management and you scroll down a little bit, there are all kinds of things on here. There's all the chartering stuff. There's resources on each of the different project areas. But what I wanted to show you is all these things down here for enhancing the club experience. So we have club manager stuff on here. We have things for club officer trainings. So when you meet with your club officers in the summer, there's information on here for that. There are some games on here. There's the ages and stages, which is kind of what we touched on earlier. Volunteer recognition, all kinds of stuff to do there. And then there are these monthly meeting topics that Texas 4-H has already put together. So there's 4 of them for every month. And there's a club manager checklist of things to do before the meeting and then after the meeting. There's a recreation for every meeting. There's a community service idea for every meeting. There's a flag ceremony, but I don't really know anybody that uses a flag ceremony. An icebreaker, an inspiration, and then a program idea. And so if you don't like all the parts of one of them, go pull the other one from, because like I said, there's 4 from every month. Not every single one of them has every single part that is super phenomenal, but they all have bits and pieces that are great. And so they all have different things for you to be able to do. There's also officer installation ceremonies if you need any of those, and then all the logos and stuff there.
Yeah, this is all so good. I had no idea.
There's also, if you go to the District 8 website, I have a whole page just for you
Oh, Lord.
that has all the things on it. So it has the financial management stuff. It has an example budget on there if you need that. There's a whole Google Drive that has all kinds of resources on it that tells you all these different things. And so if you just Google Texas 4-H and click on management, it'll take you to that first one I showed you. If you just Google District 8 4-H and click on club managers, it'll take you down to all the club manager stuff.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be reaching out to you a lot.
That's fine. Absolutely.
It was literally like our manager, you know, her kid, when the first year we got in, her kid was a senior. Her last kid was a senior.
Mhm.
And then she did it one more year. And then her oldest kids are now getting married. And so she's just in a different stage of life. And I get it. And she kept saying, I want you to take over. And I was like, I really don't have time for this. I love it, but I don't have time. And she's like, well, you're already at every meeting anyway. And I'm like, I know, but I can't take another thing on my plate. I literally got an email that was sent out to our entire group that said, just want to let everybody know Pam is our new club leader. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, it's fun. Cool. And she's like, I'll be here to help you, you know, da-da-da. No, she gone. So she'll answer my questions if I call or whatever, you know, but I was just like, I knew that there was so much more that I was missing, but I kept telling Maddie, I was like, there's got to be stuff I'm missing. And this is so much, like, I'm in shock right now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help in any way that I can. Your club managers, your county agents can also help. Maddie is also new. I get a lot of phone calls from Maddie. A lot.
I've known Maddie since she was like 10. Like, I know her family and her sisters, and I was actually the one that told her, hey, there's a job opening coming in McLennan County. You should apply for it. And that's how she got the job.
Well, yeah, Maddie was one of my 4-Hers.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I was her county agent. And so, so yes, I talked to her quite a bit. I had a middle name her the other day because she was
being sassy.
So she got middle named. But anyways, I digress. But that's literally, I'm here to help in any way that I can. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I don't mind answering anything. I may sometimes still steer you back to your county agent just because that's what their job is. But I'm always happy to help in any way that I can.
Sounds good. Thank you for all this information.
You bet. And if there's no other questions, I'm going to say thanks for joining us. I'm going to turn you loose, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your evening.
All right, thank you too. Y'all take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
See you later.